All right, everybody. Hey, guess what? It is Saturday, May 16th, 2020. It is currently 5:01 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and you're listening to by Ed Johnson. Disclaimers by Ed Johnson. And I've got him muted at the moment just because, well, he's loud. If you listen to him long enough, you know he's extremely loud. But that's all right because he actually knows what he's talking about 30% of the time. So, Ed, why don't you take it away?
Thank you. We'd like to thank everybody for joining us again tonight. Anyhow, it's been a quite educational week, and this is the one point that we're working together and educating each other. And this is the whole point about that, people are finally starting to open up with one another and start realizing it's not about one or the other that's going to get something about it, because how can you get money for something that doesn't exist? And this is the one thing that people are finally starting to wake up to it, because if there's no money and it's all fantasy and we're supposed to be writing it off and we're supposed to be on these public accounts and we're supposed to do this, that, and the other thing that is supposed to be to protect ourselves because of the birth certificate bond and insurance bond and the filings and, dealing with when you register the child with the state, and that way you give the state over the kid over the state, the lawyers. So it is interesting when you start stepping out and you put all these pieces together, and, these people are starting to realize that these pieces are coming out because people are finally, realizing the bullshit. And this is what we're living with, this bullshit. And see, when you file your criminal charges, this is the one thing that I've been on a couple of talk shows this last week, and opened up some conversations with numerous people the last week. And it's like, if we're supposed to be doing this bond stuff, how come we're not filing and claiming to own it? It's like a Social Security number. We got the ways to get out of Social Security number. We know that. But Social Security was set up as an insurance bond for the native people, and that goes from Title 28.3002, A, B, C, and D. So, we have these things that have been set up for us to protect us, and how come we're not working with each other to protect ourselves as well as our bloodlines? Now, Chris Ann Hall, that's the name I was trying to get hold of earlier. Chris Ann Hall, I watched the end of her talk show tonight, and actually I would recommend it. I was shocked about the last few minutes I saw what she did in her talk show. She finally talked as a human and not as a lawyer. Shocked the shit out of me. And you could tell Chris Ann Hall that I was shocked by her statements that, the last part of what I watched. Because, I bitch about her, and I bitch to her, and I put stuff up on her channel, and then she blocks me and plays this whole game because, I'm a lawyer. I'm supposed to be smarter than you. And it's like, bullshit. You're a lawyer, but you work for the British government. You're not working for the people. But tonight was the first time she actually talked about working for the people. So, Chris Ann Hall, why aren't you filing the criminal charges and backing them up? Tried to get that through, and we tried to do that, 5 years ago, and you fought against all that. That was part of the Bundy deal. There's a couple other cases in Florida and one in New York. You know what I'm talking about. But see, this is the point that we're fighting and arguing over stuff we shouldn't be arguing about. It's interesting because this coronavirus has got everybody locked down. This is martial law, folks. Come on, think about it. Then they're setting up, and we're going to get swabs from you. So when you come through these checkpoints, we're going to take your swabs so that way we know your heritage, your bloodline. Did you file to own yourself or did you not? So we can claim ownership over you so you go to a FEMA camp. And yes, there's been people that actually been shipped out to FEMA camps here lately. That is true. People have disappeared. It's not a joke. So, and everybody keeps going, well, these things, there could be aliens or whatever. It's not aliens. Come on, folks. Are you that ignorant to the real truth? The other point is population control. We already know this. We see it on the internet. It's been in the structure now. Facebook is starting to say it violates community standards for telling the Constitution and the truth? So, but that's the point. I mean, I file on Facebook on this stuff when I do this stuff. You know, even YouTube pulled off one of the YouTube channels that we had, one of the videos off we did. So I went after on YouTube, but it took us 4 months before we got to put it back on. You know, prove it. Here's the law. You wrote it, I quote it. You know, you're in a foreign corporation, international law. You want to go to the international law YouTube? Fine. But remember, international law is based out of Canada. International law is still owned by the bar of the Queen of England. That's why you don't want a title of nobility. When you start taking these titles and you're thinking, you know, I mean, I get a lot of people I deal with, private attorney generals. Private attorney general is a title of nobility. I don't claim a title of nobility. I'm just native. You know, I don't need a title to say who I am. I know who I am. I know what I am, and I am what I am. See, and that's the point. Once you start realizing who you are, you don't have to play these games. It's like the other day, I'm walking out the deal, and they got the code enforcer down the street. I'm coming around the deal because I know the guy that's living there, he's deaf. So I come around, and he's like, I said, so what are you doing? You can't talk to a disabled man like this. Oh, no, I think I'm talking to his father. Okay. He left. But I'm saying is that they'll bullshit any way they can. See, and they know what I know that they know that we know. But it's so important for you to file these criminal charges on these people. Don't let them get away with this stuff, city, county, and state. I'm running for county commissioner right now. I mean, I'm being attacked in some ways by the media and stuff in my own district and stuff, and it's fine. I get it. Because they're terrified of me. Because I'm going and filing the real truth. And if you read my campaign statement, it's called Elect Edward Johnston, Lincoln County Commissioner, or Lincoln Con. All right? There's no L in Lincoln County because it's a con. So I just want to clarify for those who comprehend, you know, do you work for the government or do you work for the people? Big difference. Do you respect your oath of servitude or not? And that's why we have a lot of public employees that are not respecting their servitude. That's what I'm saying. We got to keep filing the criminal charges. These things are building up and they are opening up. You might not think they are doing something right now, but you got to step out of the movie because you got to step out what's bouncing around through other sites, other medias, and the mainstream media, and what they're nailing in the mainstream media and backing off. Because remember, President Trump is the president of a corporation called the British government. Title 28, 3002, Section 821 and 123 or 1345. Title 28, 3002. Read this stuff. He's the president of a corporation of the British government. He knows it. He ain't stupid. That's why he moved from New York City to Florida. Besides, Florida has no taxes. New York City, he moved out of the Canadian province of the Queen of England. Florida goes back to the Spaniards on that structure, and that goes back to the Native Americans, Indians. Not the Indians overseas, because they had Indians through Florida going all the way back in recorded history back in the 1400s. See, read real history. See, it helps when you start reading this stuff instead of listening to these idiots that are trying to dictate to us how we're supposed to live. I mean, you know, this coronavirus, I mean, it's like, you know, I don't have a problem with it. You know, but there's a lot of people who do. And so, you know, it would be nice to get out and do things again, be social. But then again, we got to live in this paranoia structure that we've been indoctrinized to believe in. So, I mean, we're living this craziness. This ain't a joke. So when you're starting to put the pieces together on your straw man account, your birth certificate, and your funding, and we've got this on a GMI Utility Commission, and the one thing is I'll be getting a hold of this week because I got to file the other paperwork back with the Oregon State Utility Commission See, I've got this paperwork now. I got to file that, write it up, and then serve that. And then that way we can start going after the write-off for water and electricity bill. See, we have to do it on public trust. But see, I mean, putting all this stuff together, like I said, until I know what I'm doing, I'm not jumping off the cliff. You know, I'm not going to be like Strauss and all these other people asking for money. It's like, no, if you want to help out, that's nice. So I had people said, hey, you know, we'll help out for a couple months on the website. Well, I haven't seen it. But, you know what people do, you know. So, I mean, you know, I'm scraping by as it is, but at least we got this stuff going on the website, and I do appreciate, you know, especially, you know, our webmaster. You know, because, I mean, we've got stuff going up, and without this stuff happening, and you start realizing what you're reading is facts, and you compare, you do your research, double check everything we put up there. I want you to be smarter than the bear when you go bear hunting. So if you don't learn how to be smarter than the bear, you're never going to be able to hunt the bear. So, I mean, and this is the point that we're living right now. So, and we don't know what's going to happen in the next 12, 14 months. You know, they're talking the economic economy is going to crash here by September. So if everything crashes, that means we're going to have Thanksgiving, December, January. We won't see anything start moving until February, late to March. So we got to step out and start paying attention to what's going on. Collect rainwater, grow food, start, you know, it's like you got the stimulus check. Start making some garden beds. You know, you might have to can food. You got to start looking at the point of what you have to do. Because, you know, and everybody keeps going, oh, well, food share was going to be there. Well, food share is not out there. I mean, I tried to put a bill in the food share back in 1999 because these food share employees, you know, the directors of each food share in Oregon, are making $70,000 a year. Medical benefits and everything else. So how come they're not growing food on that property they have? How come they're not training the vegetables, making sure that they got fresh vegetables in those buildings instead of relying on the corporation and stores? I mean, these people are making a lot of money for just sitting on their ass and doing nothing. You know, I mean, this is one thing. We've got these people that are literally sitting on their butt and doing nothing. So, I mean, they need to grow food, plant rain, collect rainwater. I've been bitching at this for years, and that's what you need to bitch about. It's like our hunting and fishing. It's like the fishing, like on the West Coast here. I used to sit on a lot of these committees. They didn't want me to be at the committees because they started privatizing the watershed so that way, government employees had to be there so that way they created jobs out of it. So they destroyed your food resources because, the state says we got to use an experiment. When ODF&W and Oregon State University planted all the moss in the river system, like the Yaquana River, that's in their own history books. You know, I had a lot of that stuff, you know, with the scientists because they couldn't do it in a science project, so they had to plant it in the river. So that's why it came out. And now we got the moss, and we have to, you know, get your boat steam cleaned and all this. They created it, so they're liable. We're not supposed to pay for all this. I mean, you know, they got us paying for what they have done, and so we already know about this, you know, our accounts, how the money works and stuff. We're starting putting that together. You guys need to start protecting your bloodline. And you need to start looking at the assets that you have and how you're going to survive. Because if we do go through the shutdown through next year, I mean, it's going to be crazy because we're going to be sitting there. I mean, I got people that said that, you know, they were going to get evicted and they were going to move around my neighborhood, but nobody can move, nobody can do anything. You know, I mean, you know, so if people just couldn't pay their rent, they couldn't pay this because they had no jobs. So, you know, I mean, so everything's on a burden, but see, the landlords could write off on a 1099. And that would help if the people would actually open up their accounts to let them autograph that on their 1099. But it's learning how our system works that we're putting this stuff together. And you guys are part of it. That's the whole part of all this. You know, you guys are all bringing information. We're bouncing a lot of things around. I've been doing that with the people that we're going to bring on the talk show here shortly. You know, and the other point, too, I want to bring to your attention, oh, God, Rob Ryder put a new video up. Rob Ryder's new video, I recommend you read it and listen to it. He just put it up in the last week, Rob Ryder. You know, he is on our new.org and trackers, but type him in on YouTube. He's got a lot of good videos. You know, is knowing if you're lawful or legal, knowing what part of the system you are part of. And that's the beauty about this. Once you start realizing who you are, what you are, why you are, you know, that's the amazing part about it. You got to learn how to know what you are. So anyhow, I'm going to stop at this point. We're going to open up the floor and start bringing people in, and let's go for the conversation, and let's get this thing happening because people are waking up to what's going on.
All participants are unmuted.
Anybody? Floor open. Well, that's interesting. Why? I guess we got nobody tonight then. Well, go ahead.
How you doing? Hey, this is Marshall Meekum here in Utah.
Yep, go ahead. The floor is yours.
You talked about the gardening thing and everything, and I'm in a rural community of, anyway, this last week, all the farmers are starting to water and everything heavy, and some would be if one of the heads of the dam up there blew up all the water so nobody can get water for, it's going to be weeks now. So, I mean, see how fast something can turn around on you. You think you can do something, and all of a sudden it just turns around on you overnight.
Mm-hmm. Well, not only that, how are you guys going to get water in your own homes? Because besides that, most of you guys have underground wells.
Yeah, well, yeah, we do have that too. But you know that the farmers are the ones I'm worried about. You know, they've got all their crops in now, and they're coming up like crazy, and they won't have any water to water them.
Yeah, I know that, but see, that was the point that when California was going through their floods, and I was going, how come they don't sit there when they were the oil rigs were burning out Richmond, California? I mean, I was like, how come they don't sit there and have fireboats off of the coast right there, salt water? But who gives a shit? They could be pumping and spraying right there in Richmond because it's, you know, only 500 yards, and those pumpers would do that. See,
yeah, that's in California. Crazy.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
Go ahead.
No, finish what you were saying.
I was just saying that thing in California makes no sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, you know, these people are doing so much damage to themselves, and it's like they're blaming it on everything, and really, you know, there's some kind of agenda that they're not facing.
Well, that's the one thing, especially in California, because people have been voting for shit that people didn't even know what the hell they're voting on. They just get sound bites and they do what they're told. Now all of a sudden the shit's hitting the fan, and they're going crazy. I mean, I grew up down there. I watched this crazy shit for growing up in the political world. It just amazes me how people want to play ignorance. Yeah, it really is horrifying. So, I mean, you know, we're going to be looking at a lot of craziness because if nothing's going to be moving until next year, you know, I mean, unemployment rate just went up, and people don't realize the unemployment rate in the United States right now is over 90 million people. And you got to remember, most of that unemployment is illegal or immigrants. They're not telling you that fact. But a lot of those people are immigrants, and that was the one thing, if they would actually tell the people the truth of what's going on with the unemployment structure, because, you know, everybody's yelling and screaming, we have this right to work state, we have this right bullshit. You're an immigrant. You don't have rights in our country. That's the law in the treaties. Read it sometime. You'll learn. That's the one thing that we put out on the internet ourselves. We quoted the laws. I mean, when the Ninth Circuit Court tried to go after Trump and said they couldn't do this, and I went after the Ninth Circuit Court, filed treason charges on him. because we do have a right to tell who's coming into our country no if we don't want them here. So, anybody else like that? Anything?
Yeah, but I got an issue with that one, Ed, because in reality, if you take the way they structure the legality system, that's how they treat it. You know, so my thought process on that one is we need to change the structure of how they say it or print it. You know what I'm saying? Because theoretically, we're all illegal immigrants in the legality situation of what they're doing on this fraud.
Well, technically, we're not, because when we go back to the structure of the native treaties of 1770, all the treaties are with the British government anyways, and the Spanish government. They're not with anybody else in the universe.
Right.
So not all of us came from Spain and England, and a lot of us were already on the soil at the time. And then we've had people move in, and that's where the Dred Scott case came in, because now you're saying that, all right, now you have to verify who your bloodline is. And that's in the Dred Scott case. So that was to prove, so that way we know that, you know, if we had lawful or legal rights. Because if we start saying we're all immigrants, then that way we're saying that nobody has the right to be on the soil.
Well, you know, I'm just saying it from the BAR situation, which we all know that BAR stands for British Accredited Registry.
Right, exactly. And not only that, Marianne O'Connor, the Supreme Court Justice, even made that then said last year. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll finish up. I didn't mean to cut you off. Did we lose him?
No, I'm still here.
Well, I was talking about what happened to Joseph.
I'm here.
Okay, well, finish what you were saying then.
Well, you see, basically, if you know, people don't quite comprehend that the BAR stands for British Accredited Registry. So, in reality, shouldn't it actually be going for the people who have involved themselves in that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's the situation. I mean, we discussed that the other day on another talk show. I mean, you've got to know who you are. You know, you've got to know who you are. You've got to know your rights. And that depends on how you spell rights also. I mean, there's RITES, which is from the spiritual side, and then you have, which actually leads to RIGHTS. You know, it really is about word games with these clowns in these courtrooms. And, you know, if you don't know your words and you don't want to look them up, I mean, it's gonna harm you in the long run. And they're professionals at twisting things. They're given psychological, you know, aspects to play with people. And you know, we've got to stand up for who we are. You know, just because I don't know what, and seriously, legalese is like a whole language in its own. It's a whole different language. You know, so therefore, how am I supposed to know it if I was never taught that? You know, and then when you try to learn it, they've got so many rabbit holes you got to go down, and so many avenues in that rabbit hole. You know, it becomes trying. You know, and that's why we've got to come together, because all of us need to study, and we all have a particular avenue that we want to study or we get involved in. And what we've got to do is come together. And
let me cut you off. Is that if you don't file to own yourself and file your rights, because everybody says, well, if you can rescind your Social Security card, but see, you don't realize what that Social Security card really means when it goes on the EME deals in the stock exchange. I mean, that Social Security card that you got, that birth certificate registry, when you look at the numbers on your birth certificate, it's the same numbers on dollar bills.
Yep.
So, I mean, and learn the real facts, because when they did the bankruptcy system, remember, under Executive Order 2040 and the structure of Title 28.3002, the British government went bankrupt to the native people. Says it right there in the structure.
Yeah, that's why it always cracks me up when they start talking about what is that? What's the name of that damn word they use? Where all the blacks were getting in an uproar and everybody was getting in an uproar about reparations.
Oh yeah, and you owe me.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You need to go back.
We owe you.
You need to go back in history and read your history. We bought you for beads and food. And I'm sorry that that's the truth, but that's the truth.
You never filed to own yourself, so how can you be free when you don't own yourself?
Correction.
Go ahead.
Okay.
We did not buy them. Some of our ancestors bought their ancestors. If they want to take that up, they need to go to the ancestors and take it up. We are not responsible for the sins of the fathers.
Exactly.
Just because the fox didn't like the hen house is not our problem. You know, and that's the point that we're living right now today, folks. You know.
Well, they're going against the Hobbs Act right now.
Well, they've been going against that actually since Clinton. If anybody paid attention.
Right.
When Clinton put an executive order, I can't remember what it is right now off the top of my head, but we made everybody slaves under Executive Order 2040. That ended the Hobbs Act right there.
Well, in reality, the HJR 192 did that. They entrapped you into enslavement or being like a sharecropper. Difference is we ain't getting none of the benefits from being the sharecropper.
Mm-hmm. And that's the problem. We're supposed to be getting our benefits instead of being like we're living now. That's why when people say, well, we're getting a stimulus package, and when you get that $5,000, get it and spend it and make sure you got your house prepared.
That's if you can get it.
Well, some of us have got it.
Well, they've made some, situations like mine being out of work and then the taxation situation, that kind of puts you in a pickle situation. And that's the other one. Some people don't know where to go to actually get their stuff from the stimulus. Now, is that going to the IRS.gov website?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's some people out here don't know where to go. Like my cousin and my aunt didn't know where to go.
Well, your cousin and aunt are on disability, right?
Yeah.
So all they have to do is call their caseworker, and that's simple. Call their caseworker and ask for their tracking number on the check.
Gotcha.
Right. See, this is where people don't get how simple this is because, see, remember, they already put this out for the disabled and elderly. This is what they did off the interest-bearing structure because they got nailed in this shit last year. It was all in the media. So the stimulus package that they're doing right now, even though it's debt notes, but at least it's setting up so that way you get canned food, make sure you got rainwater, collecting this stuff. Because when they go through this shit for 90 days, the shutdown, because they have to restart everything, restart everything. That's like the cities right now are resetting their books, their tax books. And if you don't believe that, call up Walter Berry and, Capital Ones and read what the truth is. So, this is the whole point of getting this stuff out because, see, if you don't start standing up on this stuff, that's why I was so shocked when they had Hall tonight. I've been after Ed Hall and that shit with the buddies for years on their bullshit. Especially, let's talk about Christian law. Well, the fucking Christians were the ones who destroyed this country. The Indians lived peacefully until the Christians came here. That was from, England and Spain, Christians. People go, oh, Ed, you can't do that. No, it's real history, folks. I'm just quoting what the actual history books say. And that's the point. Either you're native or you're not, and that's how we're going to protect ourselves and protect the children. When you get pulled over and you get asked for your papers, hey, here's my papers. A lawyer has to represent a corporation, all right? So you get your papers filed. Now the corporation is that you own the corporation. They're not going to deal with you. Trust me, I know I'm living with that one. The last time they wanted to come after me and put me in jail, I was told by, the sheriff, no, we ain't going to put your ass in jail, Ed. We don't want you.
Well, now you got to give them some of the story. Some people have actually taken their birth certificate in and said, I've got the charged one or claimed against one right here and held up the birth certificate in their hand in a courtroom.
Yes, and I've done the same thing. I've taken my birth certificate and asked the sheriff to hand it to the clerk, so that way the clerk can hand it to the judge. And then that way it clears me of everything, because remember, all commercial stuff is commercial crimes. So every crime is based on a commercial structure of your birth certificate bond.
Which really puts us in civil situation,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then the sad part that gets me is like, seriously, if you need my credit, why can't you come to me like a man or a woman and ask me for it instead of make some falsified, crazy crap up, okay, that I owe a debt to some situation that I wasn't even a part of.
Well,
okay?
why don't you just come over and say, hey, I'm going to use your credit. Here's $5,000 a month.
Exactly.
At least that way I can survive and live, and so that way I can go to the movies, and if I want to go, hire a limousine for a week and go travel and do stuff, I can do that, because now I created jobs. What a concept. That way the banks are not getting the money. We get the money, and we're creating our economy, and we're saving our economy.
Well, that's the other one. You can extend it to the banks. You can extend it to all these corporations, because if they're, the whole entire situation, they're under a bankruptcy act. Okay. Why not just ask us for our help instead of putting us into an enslavement or entrapment position?
Why not work with us? Give us $5,000 a month, and you guys could have the rest of the dividends. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, if we go and borrow credit from somebody, they're going to put a percentage rate on it. Why
right.
aren't we? Why don't we get that percentage rate? I'm right there with you.
And see, that's the point. We already know this stuff, folks. Now we've got the stuff how to get there. Now we got the routing numbers, and I've already proven the structure to the court system about we've been paying taxes to the Queen of England, because, I'm running for county commissioner right now. I ran for office before in the past. It's been in the newspapers I published. That's why they robbed my house and raided my house when I was in ICU and stole my court papers and stuff. This is not a joke. These people do this stuff.
I can vouch for that.
And then people say, oh, yeah, you're whining and bitching. And it's like, man, you go have $50,000 stolen out of your home. And then you got people going, oh, Ed, you had to misplace it. Oh, Ed, it's got to be there. You just didn't know where you put it. It's like, what the freak? Or you think I'm that damn stupid? See, I hate it when people sit there and try to do something because they don't want to admit the truth of what happened to somebody. It just drives me nuts. I'm in ICU last August, and they come in and raid my house, and all of a sudden my neighbors tell me, the sheriff and the cops are in your house, don't you? I go, yeah, nice. And I said, will anybody write a complaint? And they said, in the criminal charges, no. We're not going to lose our job or our home for you. Yeah, there's your Christian people. Oh, yeah. Tell me about Christians.
Well, look how that shifted now. Because, the government's been like a third-party interloper. Mm-hmm. They're saying you cannot have a job without their identificational issues.
Right.
Okay, but look what's happened with this shutdown. We now have farmers that cannot get their produce to where it's got to go, but we're cutting out the middleman, which is the government. People are going directly to the farmers and getting, what they need and doing private contracts between themselves and the farmer.
Right.
And that's another thing we've got to get ourselves wrapped around, is being able to go and talk to them and get things set up.
Well, it's like the other point here I want to add to this. Most people go to we have to go to the government to get a job. Called the unemployment office. What happened to getting off your ass, making phone calls to businesses and asking people, hey, do you have a job opening for this, that, and the other thing, instead of going to the government deal and you get a choice or whatever, their regulations, so you have to sign up to their crap. So you don't even get how to even get a job in this country. I never went to the government and workman's comp and the government and asked them for a handout for a job. I actually got on the phone when I wanted to cook. Hey, I can cook. You need somebody who can cook. I could knock out 300 orders in this time limit. Of course, I had to prove myself, and they tested me on that because, in the fast food industry, you got to know what the hell you're doing. So, and that's the point. We're not doing that. We're not educating each other.
Well, go into the Social Security number.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you do not have to have a Social Security number to get a job.
That's a fact.
You do not have to produce that.
That's a fact.
You don't. That leads back to, what is it? Isn't it? What is it? Number 4.
Mm-hmm. And also it's involuntary slavery too.
Yeah. So, and that's part of what people don't comprehend. You don't have to give them your Social Security number. If you actually turn your Social Security card over and read the back of it, it states it's really not yours. It belongs to the government.
Mm-hmm. And you're not to use it as identification anyways. Says it right on the back of the card.
Yeah, but that's the one I've been running into, because if you go to try to get a job, they say if you don't have an identification or a face, okay, which that leads back to when I used to be a, tow truck driver or cab driver, you had to have a hack face, okay? And that's kind of, the NSA is for you. Well, who is the NSA?
See, that was the one thing, man. I was always a private contractor, so I never had those permits. If you know what I mean, man, I call up the tow company and say, hey, I know how to do this, that, and the other thing. They say, are you licensed? I said, no. I'll do this for this many hours, and this is what I'm paying for. We're doing a private contract. If you want to hire me, will you hire me? If not, I go somewhere else.
Well, and then you got to get into the tax forms.
Never had that.
The W-2 and the W-4s.
Never had that.
Well, you see, that's just it. People don't comprehend that. You do not have to permit those. You don't have to set those in. You can write your own contract.
But majority of people don't get that. That's the problem. They don't read.
I don't want to go into the monkey see, monkey do thing.
Oh, I know, but we're watching the donkey do. The monkey already passed the donkey. Isn't the monkey doing a grinder?
Yeah.
Donkey pulling the cart. Hey, it's like, we got so much craziness that's going down the pike right now, and if we don't start protecting the food resources, like a state, ODF&W, their job is to protect the food resources and raise food. Their job is not to write issue and citation and tickets.
Yeah, that's another one to bring up is, you want to release criminals who have caused a tort, okay, back into society, but you're going to pull me over because I'm not wearing a mask, or I want to, maybe exercise a religious situation. That's just the whole insanity of what's going on here.
Well, it's like the San Francisco Police Department just beat the hell out of this lady because she didn't have a mask, and she beat the hell out of this lady in front of her 3-year-old kid. Oh, that's teaching a lesson, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because now the kid's traumatized.
Well, yeah, you need the jobs. That's the whole point. People don't get it. They've got to create a job.
Well, you got to go into that part of it. For every child they get in there to the system, it's $7,500.
Well, yeah, but don't forget the other one that goes to the judge.
Exactly.
The retirement structure off the birth certificate bond. And the judge has to put his time in, so he bills the state or the county for him being that. And actually, that's called extortion of public funding.
Exploitation extortion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, don't forget, when they mail anything, it's mail fraud, extortion by mail. But, I mean, this is one thing. These guys are getting away with it, and see, the point is, the reason why they're getting away with it because you're not writing charges on them. I'm doing it. Go ahead.
Well, and on top of it, we have to educate ourselves. We definitely have to educate ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
because they're not going to do it. We discussed that. They're not going to give up the golden goose. They're not going to give up those golden eggs. So you kind of got to tell them that those golden eggs don't belong to them. They belong to us.
No, and that's the whole point, that, people got to realize that you might have your way of looking at things. We have our way of looking at things. We put this stuff together. You have another piece of the puzzle. Now we start putting all these pieces together, we can actually change this crap. But see, the thing is that people got to quit arguing with each other. And we're getting there. I think we're getting there. We've talked about this with others the last 48 hours. But remember, the one thing is, the United States is not England. I don't care what you think. We're not part of England. We never will be. And trust me, I even have that 1993 certified steel from the Queen of England in the recorded records that the United States is not part of England. So, we are free, but you have to file your freedom. And that's what the point is that people don't get. They got a job they have to do. They have to prove that we're lawful or legal. And you have to know the difference yourself. That's what all this filing is. So, anybody else got anything they'd like to throw in? Nobody else? No, this is.
Hey, Ed.
Go ahead.
Say a little bit about territorial jurisdiction.
Okay. Now, remember, on territorial jurisdiction, you want to go back and look at the territories in your state and counties. Because you don't want to go by territory by the state corporation. You want to go territories about the original foundation going back to, let's say, the 1800s, the 1700s. You don't want to go by district territories. Never go by district territories, because you go by districts, that's still under the British administrative rules. And you don't go into that. You want your territories filed that was done prior to the British coming to this country, and then the treaties that were done with the British, so that way we know the separation, that we have lawful versus legal rights. And your territory is like Oregon Territory, Colorado Territory. New York City is New York City, still owned by the Queen of England. It's not a territory. So, and that's the other point, is knowing the difference of what a territory is and what a corporation is. And that's the one thing that the beauty... Go ahead. Somebody was going to pipe up. Go ahead.
No. Don't forget to tell them the difference between state of and...
Oh, go ahead. You can jump in. You already got it. Go ahead.
Okay, so they'll try to trick you up in the courtroom. They'll say, okay, so you're a resident of the state of Virginia. No, you dwell in the territory and you're a Virginian, or you're a North Carolinian, you're a Californian.
Or you're just a native and you're not taking a claim of nobility. Go ahead, finish that other one up, because you got it. Because that's the one thing people are learning this one.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you've got to take a look at the words. It all leads back to the words and how they construct the words. And that's the idea. Is territories, when they first did territories and before the states were actually combined in a united form, as and that's why our president comes out and he does the State of the Union address, not the State of the State address. Okay, so unions use a different version of the name. Okay, so Virginia is not you're going to be a Virginian. And there used to be an old show like that on TV. I don't know how old most people are, but I'm not old.
No, that was back in the 50s.
Well,
I remember it too. I used to watch it.
Where'd you go?
I think I
Go ahead. Somebody was trying to chime in. Go ahead.
I just said I think that show is more like the 60s.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Now, you could be right, but I do know what you're talking about. Who was in that movie?
Oh.
The TV series. It was a TV series.
That had Doug McClure in it.
What?
That was the one that they always used to poke fun at the Simpsons with Troy McClure, but his real name was Doug McClure.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the cast members. I can't remember the original cast member, the guy with the dark hair.
Drury or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got an interesting thing from the Secretary of State here. This guy down in Boulder who has Krishna Foundation Trust, he's got people of the state of Colorado. He's claiming that name. So anyway, I sent him a letter, but he never responded. So I want to. He's down in Boulder. I want to go knock on the door. It's got an address here and everything.
So he's claiming he owns the territory of the state?
He owns the name, capital letter name, people of the state of Colorado. And that's who comes against you in these traffic tickets and shit.
Yeah, but see, the only one who owns that is the State Bar Association, and the head of the Bar Association owns that name.
Well, according to the Secretary of State, this guy in Boulder owns it. Actually, the trust owns it, and then he has that trust.
So that's interesting.
So as here, let me see what it says here. The trade name which such persons transacts business or conducts activities or contemplates transacting business or conducting activities in this state is, and that's capital letter people of the state of Colorado. So he's claimed that name at the Secretary of State. So,
wonder if he did that under copyright.
No, yeah, and I'm wondering if he's claiming the liability issue then.
Well, he might be, but
well, that's an interesting. If he's claiming the liability, man, anybody can sue him under the corporation name then.
Yeah, well, I was just wanting to, he could give me a letter, otherwise I was going to subpoena him, and then just, do you have any claims against me? And he's going to say no, and it's like, case should be over.
Well, yeah, don't put on. That's the one thing I want to make sure that people comprehend. You better start filing your rights to prove you're native, because Trump just announced that the military is going to do mandatory vaccinations 2021.
Is that paperwork on your website?
Should be, yes. And if you don't have that, send me an email. I'll send you what I wrote in the papers and stuff.
Okay, cool, man.
Because you could write, or you could use the basic stuff that I used on the federal level, but please go to your state, cross-reference to your state administrative rules, and write that into the structure. You can always add it into other states, so that way, you know, you're incorporating into other states that this state says that state says that, and so that way it alleviates a conflict of interest. And I'll even send you and email you all the conflict of interest statements, so that way you can file on your judges and your attorneys and everybody, and you can file on conflict of interest. If they don't file on the conflict of interest, you can file in Washington, D.C. and have them served criminally.
Cool, man.
Well, and then there's the other one. When you do file your UCC paperwork, sometimes it's either at the state level or at the county level, which advisedly you probably want to do both.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I did myself.
Okay.
All right. And see, when I went back to file my other paperwork, this is when Kate Brown went from Secretary of State to governor. And I walked in to file my paperwork, and the lady took my paperwork and went in the back room, and I didn't see her for like an hour and a half. I'm sitting out in the audience. This is back in, in Salem, and I'm out, and filing my paperwork in, the administration office for the state, and it's almost 2 hours, and I'm like, shit. And then all of a sudden, the lady comes back, and she goes, Point blank, the governor says we will not file this for you, Ed. And I was like, wait a minute, the governor just got in office 2 days ago. So what do you mean the governor says this? So in other words, that paperwork from here across the street and Kate read it? She goes, I was informed I'm not to have any further conversation with you, Ed. See, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say, just jumping back on that vaccinations that the military is going to do. I don't see why they're doing that, because I mean, they just said when Trump was talking about giving people taking bleach to fight this coronavirus, and the news media jumped all over that, and even senators did too, saying that no, that's unhealthy. Now, knowing that these vaccinations has those chemicals in it, they just turn around and just shot themselves in the foot, because that means all these vaccinations are not any good for anybody.
Well, we know that. And the other point, if you go to our website, and I posted it on the Facebook site, I actually have the federal laws that if you file with the federal laws, they can't vaccinate you anyways. But you have to know this stuff to file the paperwork with them so they don't screw with you. So the people who are not comprehending, oh, God's going to save me. No, you have to file the paperwork against these people. And now if you want to push it, now we're going to have to go to federal court. And I'm dealing with that right now in my county. That's why I'm running for office, throwing all this stuff out, and people are panicking, and an election is coming up here in 5 days. But see, I mean, I know that, my chances are, slim, because when it comes down to it, the other 4 players going against me are ODF and W scientists, board and marine scientists. I got all these public employees that are going against me. I'm the only one that's not on the payroll.
Well, and the ironic thing is they've spoken up, some of the medical field has spoken up and said that even if you have a mask on, it's not going to stop it. What gets me about the mask is, let's think about the old days when we used to get rid of hiccups. We used to blow into
carbon monoxide.
Exactly. And I really think that's what's damaging a lot of people. They're not getting their air out, and it's actually causing carbon monoxide poisoning within the body. And I think that's the real reason why they're not doing any kind of autopsy tests.
Well, they can't do that because in '93 they already put all this stuff in funding. This is 1993, folks. They already put this stuff in funding off of the trust reserve funds off your straw man account. So they already sent this over. So they have $80 trillion or $80 billion trillion on this stuff. So that way, when you die, they say it's a coronavirus, and then they get whatever the birth certificate funding is, and then that gets divided through the corporation. Simple. They took it away from us and screwed us and took it back to them. Go ahead. Hello? Did I throw people off or something?
No, I mean, I'm still here. I'm comprehending what you said.
Well, I was expecting you to come back with a comeback on that. Well, remember, we just had that conversation, so I was expecting a little bit more.
Well, where did you want me to go with that? That's the sad part is that they're telling us to put this stuff on. Really, what they're trying to do is get us to just die off, so they can get that money. Because what they've done is they've traded us at an average rate of $2 million per year. Each year we've been alive. So 50 years they've made $100 million. Plus, you got to figure in the insurance situation, which is another 10 to 20 million. Plus the original 630,000 to $1 million. Person say military individual dies over a foreign country for fighting for this country, or we all know how that kind of concept goes. Say the average person is 25 years old. Once he's dead, the corporations have just made anywhere between $61 and $71 million. And what do they pay out to the family? $500,000. I used to actually do banking paperwork, and we would pick it up at the different banks, and we would take it to the Federal Reserve. And literally, someone that has $61 to $71 million. Money is not made by days, weeks, and months. It's made in seconds and minutes and hours now. So literally to get $500,000, you would only have to invest that $61 million in there, and 3 hours later it would produce a $500,000 recoup. And that's part of what some people need to get wrapped around their head is to really look at what's going on with what they've done. And, you know, once you get on the GMEI, which is the Global Market Entity Identifier, which each person there has to have a...
Say that again, please.
The Global Marketing Entity Identifier, GMEI. If you go on there, you can hit the drop bar or you can hit the magnifying glass just above utility, above the Y on utility. When you drop it down, you can actually type in your social security number, and it'll show you exactly how many countries are tapped into your social security number. Okay? And they make a residual income off of that because they expect you to be paying taxes. Okay?
And that's the banks that are claiming on you.
Yep. And that's the system they've set up. And basically we're financing the world. And, you know, I don't know about too many other people, but financing somebody like Communist China that has concentration camps and treats their people like crap, I'm just not with that, you know. And once again, that's our credit that's going and extending, but we're getting
Well, I don't want to be putting Germany because the Chancellor of Germany is Adolf Hitler's daughter.
Right.
United Nations is still run by the Queen of England and Adolf Hitler's daughter. So I agree with you, you know. Go ahead, keep going. I'm sorry, I just wanted to throw that in.
No, it's all good. You know, and that's the other thing is the legal entity identifier situation. You know, they did that with the G7 and the G20. And this is where people need to really start watching. You know, for lack of better words, I mean, I miss him. His name used to be Ralph Nader. I mean, Ralph used to keep an eye on him like an eagle or a hawk.
I haven't seen or heard about him in probably about 8 years now. I don't know if he's alive anymore.
Yeah, that's the idea, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, back in the day, he used to...
Oh, yeah, no, I know. I haven't, like I said, I used to personally talk to him way back when. Go ahead. I mean, a lot of these people I used to talk to.
No, we just have to end up like him. We need to keep, you know, an eye on him. I mean, you know how I feel about that. I've explained how I feel about the government. The government's like an individual that you send
into they're elected and public servants because they are our servants. We are their government, that we have the power over them.
Yep, and that's the one thing we need to wrap around our heads. Keep programming us by this television. You know, that it has to be a certain way, you know. For some reason, foreign countries, they know it's propaganda. For some reason here, we just kind of buy into it lock, stock, and both barrels.
Well, because we got video games that are taking our attention away because we can sit there and play, you know, blow up ships and missiles and all this crap that we don't have to live in reality. We're living in a fantasy of a video game.
Yeah. And the other one is, you know, Ed's got the number posted on here. All you got to do is type in the posting number and put in the code, and you can join into the conversation anytime you want. Just holler. You know, we want to hear other people's thoughts and ideas and what they've got going on. The more we get when it comes to this, and we are the creators. They're not the creators. We are the creators of what goes on in our world.
I mean, that's the point that people are not paying attention because, like I said, we're rocking the world. I mean, when it comes down to it, because, you know, a lot of stuff I put out there, and then I've been going by what he's putting out there. And so we're combining stuff, and so that's the whole point, is that filing your paperwork and this stuff, people say, well, I can't do this or can't do that. It's like, you know, you got to do the best you can when it comes down to it, but if you can't do anything, do it.
Well, and then the other one is forms. There's forms out here. I don't know if you have it posted on yours. You got the one. There's ones for the new digital meter situations. You also have other ones for vaccinations for yourselves and your children. You know, we've got a few situations that you can download, print it out, fill it in. You know, it's.
And the law too that you don't have to get them vaccinated.
Exactly. You know, we're going to the extent of, you know, figuring out the rules, if you want to put it that way, of how to, you know, handle these things. And that's the other one. You also want to do your signatures in red. You want to put your
Never do
thumbprint down.
signatures, do autographs. Just got to correct you.
No, I wanted to test you, see if you was going to catch me.
Smart ass. But see, autograph has value. Signature's a dead man's hand. Doesn't matter what ink color you use in the signature. Don't believe these people when they say, "Oh, if I do it in a signature in red, it's a bullshit." Autograph has value. Learn, read, pay attention. Go ahead.
I'm good. I'm just, I don't know if you have them on there, but if not, there's other websites. I know Anti-Corruption Society has some forms from,
Oh, yeah.
For that stuff. I think there's, what is it, the Matrix. I think that's the 13th one on the Matrix on that site. If you go to the Judge Dale section, drop it down. There's forms there that you can copy. There's plenty of different places. There's plenty of websites out here that are trying to get the education out. If you're just
and don't forget
starting,
the White House Law Club too.
Well, and then there's also Stop the Pirates. That gives you
That's
a quick
another good
overview.
site too. That has a lot of. And I bounce around. See, I mean, I don't know if you've had personal conversations, but I've had personal conversations with these men and women over the years.
Right, but
Because I
what
call
do
these
is-
people up, and they had, and it's like, well, what about this, or because I'll call them up and question them at times.
Well, the nice thing about Stop the Pirates, you don't really have to buy his book. He has a lot of stuff posted on the website.
I know it's the whole thing. I know. That's like what's the other guy has? Go ahead.
Well, you got Sovereign Living, which he'll go into the Libra Code and the law situation also. So he actually goes cross-board with, the laws that are supposed to be, plus the Libra Code laws, plus even Geneva Convention and Red Cross issues. So, there's that. I think you have,
Remember, if you're flying the American flag, you're saying you're at war.
Yeah, sadly, I think the British accredited registry ought to be flying the Jolly Roger.
No, I know that, but we know they actually do that, but they can't tell anybody.
Well, do you know how the Jolly Roger came about?
Well, yeah, I do, but why don't you let everybody else know? I know exactly the history.
Okay, so basically when you were on a ship and they flew that flag, what they were trying to tell you was stay away from that ship because there was something going on in a virus situation.
Plague!
Thank you. So sadly, our government ought to be flying the Jolly Roger right now.
True, because that's exactly what the Jolly Roger was about. We're under plague, we're under quarantine, but nobody does the real history. Read this stuff. And then when you start realizing this stuff, and you start going, huh? Yeah, that's what the Jolly Roger really meant. It was under plague quarantine.
Do not board this ship. But ironically, the pirates seem to fly that one. Are they plagued in the mind?
Well, they just knew if somebody was dying, there was something there on the boat for that I could take.
Yeah.
It was always about what I could take for me, myself, and I. It was nothing what I could do for somebody else. I know. Is that sort of like we're living today, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the sad part. It's like we've got to come together, Seriously, somebody else chime in. What are your thoughts?
Anybody else got that? Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask a question.
The floor is yours.
You was talking about using red ink. Somebody suggested the other day to me that rather than use red ink, you ought to just take one of them diabetic things and actually use real blood. Does that make any difference?
Absolutely, it does too, because that is your signature in blood. That goes back in historical records. Absolutely. So that way, when you can do your signature in red ink. But if you're going to do your seal is your thumbprint, your elbow, whatever your skin marker is, and that is where your seal is. And so that way, you do that in blood technically, and that goes all the way back to the structure dealing with the kings in quarantine.
Great.
And if you're coming from the biblical side, the blood of Christ, the blood of the Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, but yeah, no, that actually does have significant value. I mean, I've done that in a lot of my own instruments. That I've done that where I've done it in red, and then I'll put my thumbprint not only over the signature, but with my seal where it says the seal on my paperwork. So I'll do it in blood over my signature, or autograph, over my autograph as well as my seal.
I was getting ready to go there.
Say that again?
I was getting ready to go there on the signature.
Oh, no, yeah. Well, that's like I jump on you and other people, they go, person. I said, what's the person? You know, there's no such thing as a person as an inanimate object. It doesn't exist.
Okay, well, let me ask you this one. What about this Stamp Act situation and stamps on the backside and using thumbprint or, signature or autograph?
You're talking the dollar stamp? That way you're the Postmaster General?
Well, the fact of giving it value.
Well, that does give it value because remember on that structure, that goes back to the post office structure, when the military, because your postal services around the country are your military structure. That's your payee. That's where they used to take and, we have an outpost here, so this is how we can pay the military. Because they used to pay them in cash and gold. I mean, that's what
we fought England over. We fought England over the 14% stamp tax.
Now we won that too. We don't have to pay it.
Well, that's how we pay a lot of bills now to win the situation.
No, that's not how we pay a lot of bills. They pay your bills through your strawman account. See, when you think you're paying bills or getting taxes, those taxes are what they're reinvesting into their own corporation. So if you pay a street tax bill in your city and you pay a street tax, that tax goes into what they call the transportation fund for the state. So the transportation fund for the state is an interest-bearing account. So they take that tax money and throw it into the interest-bearing account where they pocket the money at the end of the year. That's how they get their pay raises and all this little party money they get.
That's why some people will suggest you do get a non-bearing interest situation with your bank or credit union.
And you don't need a driver's license to open a bank account or a Social Security number.
Okay, don't forget about the back of the check.
Go ahead.
When you endorse the check, Title 12, Section 411, makes that money turn back into real money.
Section D.
Yep.
Sorry, just had to throw that in.
No, it's all good, brother. That's what we're here for. We feed off each other so we can help each other.
Well, that's the whole point, is putting these things together so when you're doing this stuff yourself, these codes. It's like all these public employees go, Ed, how do you remember all this shit? And I'm looking at these people going, how do you not know? You're working in the system 24 hours a day, but most of these public employees, what do they do when they're at a job? They talk about their bullshit at home. Oh, Mary Sue, or whatever, they had a bad day. Who the fuck gives a shit? You're not supposed to talk about your structure on company time. And these people do this stuff. They waste life and time on company time. We pay for this. This is called public theft of services by law. They stole our time. They stole our money because they were bullshitting. So, we've got the rules are there. It's like Title 12. Definitely read that structure. The banks and the cities and counties can't own property. So that means that they're foreclosing on your home. They can't own property. So how can they foreclose when they don't have the paperwork to foreclose on? That's why when people go, oh, I'm getting foreclosed on, I said, did you file to see the original banknote? Well, what do you mean? If they don't got the original banknote, it's already null and void. The contract. So you already own your house. Think about it.
And then you can fight under Chapter 48, Statute 48, Section 112 on the autograph.
I mean, see, all you gotta do is step out and pay attention to the movie, folks. Well, that's why I always recommend Interstate 16, the movie, or Idiosyncrasy is a good one. That's your medical shit you're going through right now. You know, we're living this stuff, you know. I mean, Ghost Rider is another good movie if you actually comprehend what Ghost Rider is all about, what Cage did in that movie. You know, Sam Elliott. But most people don't get movies. They go for entertainment, but they don't see the value of the movie. Or what the movie might be trying to maybe open their mind to something. So, I mean, you know, we got a lot of options out there. So anybody else would like to speak up? You know, this is for everybody, so speak up. Okay, well, I would like to add that we had another 50 new members this week joining the Facebook groups. So the numbers are climbing. Things are paying attention. People are paying attention. People are getting it. I'm getting a lot of emails and hits going on too. So at least I like to bring that up to people so that way they realize that, you know, our work is coming out. People are paying attention to what we're all doing. Because it's about all of us. I mean, it's your kids, not mine. I don't have kids. You know, so.
And then other people that were on with Facebook that also put out information will repost that so that you can get, you know, other people's inputs that are out here working and doing the same things. Derek Gonzalez is one. Candy Connor, Darlene Went.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of people out here. We're trying to get it together. There's another guy named Keith on there. I can't remember his last name right now.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it either. Keith, Little.
And then if you want, you're going to do some more studying, you can do the Gene Keating situations. You can get them usually off of USFL's website, which is Secured Party Creditor University or SPC University. USF really has quite a lot of good information.
Mm-hmm.
I know Ed's got a lot of his stuff posted. You know, that's what we do. We try to figure out other things from other websites so we can put them all together so that we can help people. And you know, we're just trying to help each other out here because we know we got to fight here. We know we got some crazy stuff going on. If you can't believe me, just turn on the television for a few minutes and watch these politicians down in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
District of Columbia.
Well, I want to add another thing, too, is that the book I've been pushing out is Handy Candy Man. And if you know anything about the Gaston case, it's sort of similar to this. I personally know both cases because I was involved in around that time. So, you know, there's a lot of things that, you know, everybody keeps telling me, you got to write a book yet. But, people want, we can write a book, okay? But right now, I got too many things going on to stop. If somebody really wants to do real history and write a book on this stuff, I'll give it to you. Okay, but the whole thing is that if you start making an income, 10% goes back to the structure, have to pay the structure. I don't give a shit, take the 90%. But do it with the grace. It's not about greed. You know, we can sit there and solve it. Go ahead.
The actual setup was supposed to be 80-20 for the House Joint Resolution 192. So basically,
Thank you for the correction.
We were supposed to get 20% kicked back to us for being used as collateral.
Using the straw man account, and that was filed in 1866, yeah.
So.
Yeah, our water, electricity bill and all this was already supposed to be paid. When we get that statement, technically we're supposed to autograph it, stamp it, and send it back in for payment.
And that's the other one. We're trying to figure out all the forms that need to be sent in. You have your 1099A, your 1099Cs, 1096, 211s, 3949A, your 4506A, your 56 form for your taxes. There's some things that you've got to do. You also have your 1040V. We were on a talk show the other day. Unfortunately, somebody got a little irate and got the main guy that we were learning some things from to get a little upset and click off, which is sad because he had a lot of good information. There's Zoom situations going out with like Derek Gonzalez. Ed and I were on the other day with him. There's plenty of people out here trying to educate and trying to help people to comprehend what's going on so that they can become a secured party creditor situation. And that's just it. You would be loaning your credit out, and that kind of leads back to, if you remember what JFK said, and that was, don't ask what your government can do for you, ask what you can do for your government. Okay, we're not coming as combatants. We're coming in peace. That's what they want. They want you to argue in a courtroom so they can get you under a lock, or shackled. I don't know anybody that's wearing a pair of handcuffs or shackles that is freely, putting a autograph on any kind of paperwork. Any paperwork you sign, they have the right to copy and mimic your signature. So that's where things get that's why you want to be on an autograph situation. You want to use autograph instead of signature. And
so don't forget, you want to file a 5404A form on their taxes because they don't report their income.
Right.
So you got to file on these people to keep them going because, I file on them and the people are going, well, Ed, what are you doing? Well, I'm running for office, and people are going, well, Ed, and I'm like, hey, I'm out here doing this. I'm not talking about it. I'm doing it.
And the more of us that get to doing this, the structure will change. That's what we've got to get their attention, and the way to get their attention is to file, so they look at it and go, uh-oh.
Well, it's like, I put this email out from, oh, God, I'm trying to remember the guy who did the tax deal. Hang on a second, let me pull it up. And this guy was on my talk show, and he proved that the taxes were a fraud. And it's coming up, and hang on a second. This is Internal Revenue Service, Department of Treasury. Go ahead.
William Cooper.
Wait a minute. You're talking about, no, I'm talking about, this is from Roscoe L. Egger, Jr., Commission for the Internal Revenue.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking when this guy filed, and I'm going to get his name here because he was on my talk show. I talked to him personally. Dave knows this guy because David Lee Buse was in Washington, D.C. with him on it. And where the hell is his name? Because he proved the 16th Amendment was never passed, never ratified. I'm trying to remember his name. Brain fart. Somehow it's not on the picture I got.
Well, the only reason I mentioned William Cooper is he actually did a very unique design and showed the entire fraud situation with it. And I actually have the papers downloaded. It's very hard to find them right now, especially on the web. As soon as they go up, people are tearing them down. And I actually got a copy of it, and I pretty much snapshotted them so that we could print them out, because he really did a very unique, in-depth study when it came to the IRS taxation situation and what's going on.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's the one thing that people got to pay attention to this, because, I get all the time people say, oh, you have to pay taxes. I'm like, no. Have you ever read the tax law? Oh, yeah, I know what the tax law is. Then if you know the tax law, then only elected and public employees and registered church members. That's what it says by law, because that goes under the Title 28.3002, where all the income is supposed to go back to the native people. They went bankrupt to the native people. Read the Bankruptcy Act, the real act, not what you think it is. Remember, an act is a stage of district of acting.
Well, would that be in the book Cracking the Code? One of those three?
Oh, yeah. Tax Cracking the Code, yes. That's a good book, too. And that is valuable. When you got that, and we have that up, and I've emailed that out hundreds of times. Cracking the Tax Code.
And then the other one, if you want to educate yourself, is Gene Keating's Prison Treatise.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then the Clerk's Praxis, which is very old.
Well, are you talking about the original version from I think it was 1952? That was the one that they wrote in from, I think it was New Jersey court system. Do you know what I'm talking about then?
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. You know, 'cause we've been studying so much other stuff here lately.
Well, I know. Me and just so everybody knows, me and this gentleman, we've been back and forth, emailing, going back and forth, researching this stuff, so that way we're bringing the stuff to you, because we've argued this. Sometimes we've argued over different things or asked each other to say what, why, and if. And so, you know, and we're questioning that, and that's why we're bringing it to you, because we all have to question it. You know, because we know that these people are committing treason right now in our country. But you have to file the treason charges on these ones. And this is what gets to me, you know. I mean, I got a lot of people, I'm on a lot of these groups, you know. But when I started posting stuff, everybody puts me on a deal where, you know, I can't post it, because now when I go and post stuff, it goes into the deal, and they have to go clarify to see if what I'm posting. You know, and so this tells me what some of these people are doing. You know, they're screening us, and so this is a scary part of what's going on. You can bitch about all the other crap, but, you know, your friends and family are screening you too. So how come people don't see this? That's my question. You know, I mean, you know, we're living this crazy shit, and then, come on, this Pandora, you know, everybody's wearing face masks. Wearing face masks, technically, isn't that a crime when it really comes down to it?
Well, they were arresting people.
Is that called robbing a bank?
They were arresting people last Halloween for it.
Yeah. Now they're not arresting people for it. What a concept.
Oh, no, you'll get a $1,000 fine at certain places if you don't have one on.
Tell me if that ain't moronic. Here's the other point that I was looking at, that I was talking. I should have put this paperwork together 2 years ago when I was going to do this. Because I was going to write a structure with T-shirts and stuff dealing with picketing, you know. Your rights to freedom of speech to picket. And I should do that, because with the T-shirts, so long as you're non-combatant and stuff, the cops can't do nothing, and all you hand them is the business card. The business card is your ID. That's the structure goes back to your central database that runs your computer. So if you're a member of somebody's website, here's my ID. Here, you know, you got to go to the central database that runs my ID. Here's my ID through my central database. I don't have to go through yours. People don't think about this stuff. You know, that's why I have our website up, you know. But I mean our website, because everybody wants to join whatever, they want to post stuff up. It's our site, because we're here to protect one another. Because shit, I mean, you know, I don't know what I've got going on all the time. I have a concept. But then again, I've been in and out of the hospital too. So, I mean, I got to look at the other point of view that, you know, I have my ups and downs. You know, so, you know, and that's the whole point of how we're going to protect each other. See, I don't have kids to protect in my life. I thought I did. I thought I opened my heart up. I mean, because my kids are dead. People go, why? Well, if your kids are dead, why are you doing this? Because I don't see you go through the living hell that I've gone through. Think about it. Why would I want you to go through what I've already lost and what I've already lived through? You don't need that, you know. I've already lived it, so why do you have to live it? I lived it for you, all right? So you got family, learn to enjoy it. So that's the point. Don't argue about it. If you have family that you're arguing about it, then you can't talk. That's the way it is. You can't get depressed and all that and, you know, lonely, or life is a rough road sometimes. So you have to know what road you're on. So, anyhow, anybody else like that, anything?
May I?
Yeah.
I got another question for you.
Okay.
You know, we're Continental Marshals, and And
right.
we've taken oaths and done all this, and now we're being told by Anna Von Rice that we can't take oaths, and she wants us on a land commission. I don't even know what the hell she's talking about, a land commission. Do you?
See, yeah, I do, because when Ann Von Rice started all this crap, remember, your Continental Marshals and all this stuff came for her. You are aware of that, aren't you?
No, I never even heard of her when I was in it. Never even heard of her.
Oh, well, who was the one that brought you in and swore you in?
Well, I was in, Bruce Doucette, I was part of his deal.
All right, well, see, when Bruce went through all that stuff, now, do you know how far I was involved with Bruce?
No, I didn't know you was involved with him at all.
Yeah, I mean, I got YouTube videos going back years ago with Bruce and Anna Von Ritz myself.
I see.
See, I mean, they were going through this, and they were getting people hooked up because Ann was selling a package to get people to file their straw man accounts and file their insurance bond and all this, the same thing that Strauss did. Okay, so people were going to jail, and then Doucette started getting involved in all this, and I argued with Doucette because Doucette's trying to tell me, oh, Continental Marshals and Continental Judges, and I'm going, you can't do that. And if you look at the structure of Continental, that's the British government. You're taking title and nobility. That's treason. And everybody wanted to argue with me. And you can't argue. I produced the facts. So when they did all this crazy now, when Bruce Doucette decided to go argue in a district court in Colorado. Now, right. Bruce knew that he was supposed to be a Continental Marshal or Continental Judge, as he claimed. Then why the hell was he fighting in a district court of the British government instead of going to an Article III court?
I never got to be much part of that. He called and asked me about it, and I just said I wouldn't do anything stupid. I don't know enough about it to start telling me what to do. But I'm not going to do something stupid to get thrown in jail over.
Well, and that's what I try to explain to him. It's like, and then when he started putting his paperwork in his liens, and it's like, dude, you never even won a court case on a judge, so that way you can serve them a lien. Because technically, the only way you can serve a lien on a judge or a cop if you win a court case on them. That means even if you file in small claims court and you win the small claims court, now you can go lien the hell out of his house and everything.
Well, I guess he's got 20-something years to think about it, right?
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, I feel sad for his wife. I mean, he went through that, and when he was going through the syntax and doing all this stuff, shit, this is like, 8-10 years ago. You know, go ahead.
Him and they're great people. Steve, Byfield, great guys. They don't deserve to be where they're at, but my question still is what the heck is a land commission? See, now they're trying to make us redo the whole structure again after 5 years, and we've been doing it for 5 years. Now they want to change the whole structure again. And I'm about fed up with this changing every 5 years. All these paperwork that we've been doing.
But see, what you want to do is file your claim on the original paperwork.
We've done that.
Yeah.
All right, so every time that they're redoing their paperwork, you refile your claim into their paperwork. So your claim supersedes their paperwork, so you have to file in that.
I see.
All right, and so you want to make sure it's clarified with them when you file it, and then that way when you do it, you want to do it where you got their stamp, and you don't have to sit there and tell them, just go and I want to file this. Don't tell them what you're doing. And then after you do it, then you send them registered certified mail, and then you make it public what you did to protect your land. Oh, wait a minute, your soil.
Soil, yeah. yeah, you got to know the right words, right?
That's the whole point.
Are you aware of her 928 forms?
Go ahead, I didn't hear that.
I said, are you aware of her 928 forms that she's making everybody do?
Oh, yeah, See,
well, I told her 10 months ago when I done all mine, she wanted all the marshals to do it, and I said, I'm not going to have them do it because I want to see if it works first. I don't want to be called names, and here it is over 10 months later, and not one person's ever got paid from the IRS one dime, and I'm sitting there thinking, Well, I'm sure glad I didn't drag everybody into that deal, you know. I don't know where
No,
she's
well, that's the other point that I got to me, because what she did is she drugged everybody in to go filing to be registered as a taxpayer, and they didn't get it.
There's
Go ahead.
comes from Patrick Devine. Patrick Devine actually figured out how to do the paperwork with the IRS. Okay, but here's the thing: when you do a bond, okay, when they do a bond on you, they have three forms of bonds. Okay, you're going to have a bid bond, you're going to have a performance bond, and a payment bond. Okay, those are going to be standard forms 273, 274, and 275. You'll find that from Gene Keating's Prison Treatise and his teachings. The other one is the GSA bonds, okay, which you have 24, 25, and 25A. Okay, you can create your own bond to get out of your situation. It's a shame you guys didn't actually study this part of it, because if they had, they wouldn't be sitting in a jail for the next 20 years. Okay, you've got to figure out, once you claim against yourself, once you own yourself, okay, under the UCC situation, you've got to start learning how to do the tax situations. Okay, that's what we were going through on a talk show the other day, and we're trying to get the audio from that, because one of the gentlemen there, he called himself Mannix. This man really knew what he was doing, okay, because I asked him particular questions, and one of the ones he said, you can create any kind of bond you need to. Okay, say my situation, I explain the power company issue I'm having, and he says, well, what I would do is I would actually create a bond after you get yourself set up. You can actually set yourself up with a seal. He was actually explaining about a woman that went to and got her seal, and it was under a golden seal, and she was claiming $300 million. Okay, but basically she had compromised and gotten a $1 trillion, but she was going to take $300 million and actually extend it out to the banks. So you see, we're doing the best we can when it comes to studying, but that's why we're trying to get people also on these calls with us and on the show.
And we want them to do research too, to bring it to us too as well. We're sharing everything, because we all have to do this. Go ahead.
And the quicker we get, more help when it comes to this, and it's not easy. You've got to put some hours in. It's not, and you've got to do a lot of reading. But the common sense situation is, once we figure it out, then we can take over the structure and we can actually do what needs to be done. There's no reason, what they're looking for is the intelligent people out here. Not everybody can do this. It takes time and it takes energy, and that's the thing, is that we're trying to change the negative energy that's going on out here. Even our governments are freaking out right now. And it's actually as simple as
well, our elected public servants.
Yes. And, the idea is we need to help them comprehend what's going on. They want to sit there and mudsling. They're so used to mudslinging instead of taking the time to do what we're doing, and that's researching this so that we can figure it out to help. We're not trying to fight them. We're just trying to help them figure it out themselves. There's no sense in, Nancy Pelosi's worth what, $92 million? How is it she's worth $92 million, but we aren't? You see, that's the common situation.
No, $192 million.
Is it 190? Okay.
$192 million, and her husband's worth $209 million.
Well, we all know about the kickback deals and all that payola.
So, but also, too, all the contracts her husband got because he got from his wife working for the Senate.
Could we say that maybe like an insider trading situation, or maybe a little
conflict? Oh, absolutely. It's using your public official as a financial gain. That's a federal crime. That's treason.
And that's the other one I'm currently into studying. Unfortunately, Patrick Devine passed away. Pulled out. Okay, what he figured out was, and part of it has to do with the Postal Service. That's what we're researching. What he found out was, the federal will take out another 10 bonds on that. So when you're doing your paperwork, okay, you've got to factor in what they've done. So say you go to court and your court cases, they want $2,000 out of you. Well, the federal level, you've got to file it on that paperwork, and it's usually on the 1099, I believe, C for unclaimed, or it's A, one of the two. I've got to research it again.
Right.
But on line 3, it says you put the amount there, but on line 2 above it, you got to go 10 times above that. And that's what we're currently trying to get together and figure things out. And we're going to other people that have it figured out, and even them, the other day when we were on the talk show, with several, we had 8 people, and then there was probably, what we have, 72 listening in.
7,200 people.
Yeah, so it's not just us. Everybody's becoming awake. But what, he was still learning himself. He had gotten himself pretty much freed up on the paperwork, but he was just, starting to figure out some other things. And that he's the one that actually talked about the woman that got it. And trust me, we would love to figure that one out. The other one is once you do get this stuff done, eventually you'll do a contract with the U.S. Treasury situation, and you'll also have to sit down and talk to the IRS and the Treasury, and you end up with a credit card. And there's supposedly 2 different colors, a green and a black card. Everybody wants to go for the black card, but I think they start you out on green until they comprehend that you actually fully understand.
Know what's going on yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, she keeps telling us about that all the time, too.
I didn't hear what you said.
5 years, in 5 years, there's not one remedy that she comes up with that's worked, not one.
Well, here's the sad part is people don't comprehend it because we don't have anybody to teach us this stuff. And
you guys know David Strait?
Well, I've been doing pretty damn good in the circumstances. So, I can't complain myself because I'm still on my soil.
Well, I'm just talking about David Strait. He comes out and he's coming out next week to teach us more. He's been teaching us all that stuff. He started out with Anna von Rice too, but he's kind of pulled away from her.
No, I know that he's finally getting it because the only conflict I have with Dave, and I know Dave because he lives up here in Oregon. And the only thing that I have with Dave is that he keeps going on religion.
Not no more.
Oh God, that is a traitor. Thank you. That's good to hear. Because everybody was doing this religion kick, and I'm like, you guys don't get it because if you're saying that I have to kneel and pray to somebody, you're not free.
Well, I brought it up just a while back. I said, well, what about our church? Because we're both LDS, and he says, I said, well, what about it? And anyway, he says, the church is worse than the government by far.
Yeah.
That's all he'd say. He says, and I know he doesn't say much about it anymore because I don't think they allow him there anymore because of what he's doing. But it just makes you wonder, everything's a trick, everything's lies and that. So you got to be careful no matter which direction you go.
Well, but think about this one. If you can walk in and go sign and say, I'm a minister, and I go get a 501c3 and I can write off all my stuff to that.
Right.
And people go, what do you mean? I said, don't you realize that the churches, and they go, well, people donate the money to keep the churches going. They donate money to keep the pastor paid, but the churches write off their water electricity bill to the state.
Okay, let me chime in here.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the other reason Ed uses native, if you use sovereign, you're still under that ruling. You're still under that corporation of England. That's
of the king.
Yep. So,
you mentioned you're native to Anna von Rice, you're out completely right now. They throw you out of assemblies and everything if you say that.
Hey,
well, see, I don't get thrown out when I talk about it. I just did that on another talk show that I just did 2 days ago.
No, you just get ridiculed. Yeah, you just get ridiculed.
I'm bringing it out because I'm running for office. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, we can't do that at all.
Any chance?
You see,
we can't do that because we can't vote.
I asked him if he was on Facebook. Are you on Facebook by any chance?
I am. I see your stuff.
If you want to go to Greater Newport Chamber of Commerce, scroll down and watch the county commissioner hearing. Listen to what I said about the stocks and bonds and the stuff and then the other President County Commissioner Claire Brown, who's Bill Hall. Claire Hall, that's Bill Hall, or Claire, whatever. He's going, everybody wants the sheriff out there. Well, the sheriff goes out and forecloses and rapes and robs. And he's telling me that the people want the sheriff out there raping and robbing and foreclosing on their home?
Yeah, that makes no sense, too, that we have to work with the sheriffs. We have to work with the sheriffs, and they're basically, we don't have any power at all. They have all the power.
Well, that's the other point, too. Isn't it the sheriff of Nottingham?
Yeah, that's what it looks like, huh?
I mean, come on. That's the whole point. People don't realize when the sheriff's department ended up with a department, they have no authority. If the sheriff wants to have authority, he cannot have a department.
Well, and then my favorite is when they started attacking him the other day, I was like, well, hold up now. Aren't you guys bypassing a piece of paperwork here that we know about? And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, the Declaration of Independence. Right there in the first paragraph, it states, whether you believe in one God, four gods, no gods, or whatever you believe in, you know, you have that right. That's the whole idea. You have that right. You listen to Patrick Devine, he you know, God rest his soul, he died of leukemia a few years back, I think 2017. But prior to that, when he was doing this, he would say, you know, you've got to comprehend who you are. They're your servants, and you can direct them in any shape, way, and form. When he was doing this, when he figured out the tax situation, he created his own. It was a 1099-B, and the V was for voucher. Now, when he used that voucher, he also included that a voucher claims to be also a warrant. That's where my studies are right now. But, you know, seriously, when I see something that's 3 hours long, you have to comprehend. When I'm studying something 3 hours long, it's going to take me 12 hours to go through because I'm replaying it to catch every word I can.
Right.
And every you know, form that they might mention, you know, we go to the extent of researching to the point where we're literally bleeding from our eyes practically, and probably falling out too because we stay up hours upon hours to try to, you know, help people out because really, you know, that's what we're supposed to be here for. We're supposed to help each other out. You know, that's where the share and share alike or do unto others comes in. You know, I'm, you know, people think that the Bible, you know, some people say it's basic information before leaving Earth. In reality, it's basic information, banking ledger entries. You know, it's really about life. But you've also got to read between the lines. You know, did somebody, you know, another guy mentioned the other day when we were on that talk show that he had read the Quran, which I've done the same thing. I've read the Quran and the Bible. And ironically, before you get to the New Testaments on either one of them, they're almost identical. So somebody of common, you know, knowledge there helped write both of them. So, you know, that's the other thing is, plus, you know, that's part of the issue when we're studying is that you're going to read something, it's going to lead to 5, 6 more avenues to go to on laws that you're going to read and avenues that you've got to search. And, you know, it after a while, I mean, I don't know, you know, I'm pretty sure I'm not trying to speak for Ed or anybody else. But for me, it just intrigues the crap out of me. You know, I've got to find more. I've got to dig just a little bit deeper just to find out what exactly are you trying to hide under this dirt here. So, and you know, the Anavon rights thing, you know, this is part of the thing. This is why, you know, we've talked about this many times. Ed will back me up on this. Okay, this is why we're trying to come together and get everybody to come together. We're not here to fight each other. We're here to figure out the system and get control of it. Okay, not in the sense of, you know, putting people out, but in control so that we are in control as the people who it was really made for. It's not made for these elite government people and they going around thinking, oh, we're smarter than you because we're lawyers. And if you read the original 13th Amendment, which is what, like 1854, you know, and you actually take a look at that, or was it 1852? I always get this. Anyhow, if you actually look at it, it says no lawyers is supposed to be in office whatsoever. Not a one. And if
I want to throw something in here. You guys all know about Liberty Alliance, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's another one, because the guy who runs Liberty Alliance is a former attorney out of New York City.
Wow.
Yeah, see, I nailed him on his own talk show, and he's like, well, and I said, what do you think? You're talking to a guy that does the research, and I gave him his bar number on his own talk show, and he's like, and I'm like, you know, it really pisses me off when people like you do this. It's like, you know, oh, yeah, I said her name earlier, but, you know, not Ann Von Rich, I'm trying to remember her name. Then, yeah, I'll come to me here in a minute, but, You know, I was shocked that her. Go ahead.
Christy Ann something or other.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And see, when she brought it up on her talk show tonight, I heard she was ending. You know, because normally I'll listen to her talk show and I'll throw shit in her talk show. You know, you're bullshitting and all this shit, and she's like, you know, and her co-host gets upset because, you know, we don't like people bombing us. And I said, what, bombing you with the truth because you're bullshitting? You know, you're a lawyer. You can't tell the truth. We know it. You know, shit. I mean, all the so-called stuff she's supposedly done with the Bundys. That's like the Bundys when Adam or Umden was going and saying that little 13-year-old girl up here in Portland, and I'm trying to get a hold of her parents, and I'm like, you know, they don't need to do surgery on her. Here's what you need to file. Oh, no, did they do that? No, they decided we're going to have a prayer session instead. We don't want to file. We don't want to upset these people. And I'm like, so you're lying and bullshitting. You care for this child. I mean, and that's what these people do. They, you know, when they're doing this shit or nonprofit agency, it's like, we got to stop this shit.
Oh, if you're going to go down that path.
Christy Ann, oh, God, I almost had it. But go ahead.
If you're going to go down that track.
Christy Ann Hall, yeah.
If you're going to go down that path.
Yeah, go ahead, may I?
I wanted to tell you something. Like one of the producer that produces some of the tapes for Christy Ann, I just spent a couple weekends ago down in the other end of the state where the SWAT team took out the people out of their house because they owed IRS a bunch of money. They took them out 10 months ago, and we went down and tried to put them back in the house just recently. And he's the producer of that, Christy Ann. He does her documents and stuff. But it's just interesting. Boy, this guy, he's on pins and needles now because we got him back in and we got him to study all the things he could study. And so far they haven't bothered him, but I don't know how it's all going to turn out. But it's just interesting, you know.
The one thing is simple. Did he ever sign a contract with the IRS?
No.
See, and that's the point he needs to go because the IRS is still out of Puerto Rico, still run by the Queen of England.
Well, he's done all that. But here's the see, we work with the sheriff, and it was the sheriff's department that come in with the SWAT team and done all that, and we were trying to explain to the sheriff, you're supposed to be protecting this guy, not taking him down. I mean, that's not your job.
The sheriff is under a department called the Queen of England. He does not a sheriff. He has an agency, so he works for the Queen.
Yep. But anyway, you still never answered my question, is what is a land commission?
A line commission?
No, a land commission.
Oh, land commission. Oh, okay. The land commission, the original one was appointed in 1829. And the land commission was what they were starting to set up with districts. And that's dealing with the military, dealing with post office.
Okay.
So when they were, go ahead.
That makes sense. I'm just listening.
All right, yeah. See, that's the one thing. So when you step out and you start putting how the post office got, because the post office, technically, each and every post office is supposed to carry so much gold and silver on hand.
Right.
Okay, and see, that's the payee structure of the military. So that way, if anybody who works for the government gets a government check, and that's including a tax check, you go in the post office and they have to cash it. And you can actually demand gold or silver with that cashing.
Yeah. I know their money orders are backed by gold. They've actually asked them about that before, and they didn't. Most of them don't even know, but it is backed by gold. But anyway, you know, I'm the they put me over the whole western the United States of the Marshals, but I'm thinking of stepping down because just me talking to you right now would get me in trouble. You know,
well, not really, because the point is that all right, you got into something on that point. See, even Ann was trying to get me to become one of the judges or marshals. This is fucking 5-6 years ago. You know, and everybody's trying to push on me. Go ahead. Somebody was going to speak up?
No, I just said that's when it started.
Well, and the other one is, okay, you're educating people. as long as you're educating, they can't really attack you. You're trying to educate people so that they're aware of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
When it falls under education, it cannot be attacked.
Well, I'm a firm believer that all these groups out here need to come together, and they're not. They say, if you're a member of any of these other groups, then you're out of the picture. And I tell them that just the opposite. I says, if you don't do what you can to bring all these groups together and get into one thing, I don't know how we're ever going to get ahead of it all.
Well, that's the one thing I've been preaching out and bitching about. I mean, see, when Ann started coming out, and then Chris Ann Hall, and all these people started their own little structure, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing, And then Chris Ann Hall, I'm still shocked about when she closed her talk show down tonight, but I mean, it's like the bottom line comes out, she's a damn lawyer. I'm sitting there speaking as a constitutional attorney. You ain't speaking as a constitutional attorney. Because if you were speaking as a constitutional attorney, like I said to Chris Ann Hall on the Bundy case 4 or 5 years ago, me and Mike went off on her, my school. And we said, why the hell aren't you filing the criminal charges on the judge and everything for the Bundys?
If she was a constitutional attorney, she'd be disbarred anyway. I have a friend.
You got that one right. That's the whole point. You can't be a constitutional attorney working, but they take a constitutional oath. But see, that's the one thing. Each state attorney does take a constitutional oath. So are they taking the Constitution and the treaty oath like they said they're supposed to take? Or they have 2 oaths they take. One is to the corporation, and one is to the Indian treaties and the Constitution.
Well, Wendy brought that up the other day when I was talking, or Darlene.
All right, go ahead.
What's his name? Tony Pellegrino? He's a constitutional lawyer. I really think maybe we should contact and start getting some of these people that are involved with that.
Well, it would be interesting because Tony's one of my friend lists, and I battled with him a couple times on the internet. And that is a good point.
So you were combating with him? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I had a couple combating issues with him. Going, you're not saying this one, what?
No, we're together on this. We're trying to come together, and that's the I think Mark Emery said it especially well because he was on Kelby Smith's situation, and he tried to talk with Kelby, and Kelby kind of shut him down. And was speaking with Mark, over the phone. He said, Joe, it'd be great, but the problem is we all got to get past this egotistical crap.
Oh, boy. Amen on that.
Well, I mean, everybody's going, my plan is better than your plan. It's like we all have the same plan when it comes down to it. It's called the Indian Treaties and the Constitution. If you don't have the right to wipe your ass, neither do I.
Well, I go past on that one because even Patrick Devine stepped outside of that box. He's like, you're the creator of your own destination.
Right.
Okay. And that's the idea, is that we're the creators ourselves. We're the ones that created this situation, not them, and then that leads back to, some of the things that I've heard, people are like, well, you weren't there to sign the Constitution. No, I really wasn't. But at the same time, we have to use what we have in place. And that was, we had a major argument the other day on a talk show when we were on there with a guy over in England, which, God bless him, he did do some fantastic things, but he didn't go into the in-depth of studying and doing this construction. He got his judgment, but then they came along and took everything away from him because, he hasn't figured out that he's the creator. He can create whatever he wants. And, that's where Patrick Devine...
Well, not only that, he's in England, and he didn't realize he didn't file on the structure of his bloodline to save his ass to begin with. Because, see, you got to realize when you're in a foreign country, you have to know your bloodline. It's like in America. You have to know your bloodline. You have to know if you're lawful or illegal. When it really comes down to it, and that's the point, people don't sit there and know their circumstances of who there are, who their grandparents, their great-grandparents, their great-great-grandparents are.
Which, by the way, the LDS website, Family Search. Well, you see, my aunt, my uncle are LDS, and so is my cousin. So they actually hit me up and said, you might want to check this out. And they really do have good website when it comes to the family search situation, compared to like Ancestry. Ancestry wants to charge you something. LDS will actually let you get in there free.
I can't believe Ancestry is charging, because it used to be free because they were getting a dividend off of everybody that was checked in. So they used to get free, because they hit over a million entries, so they were getting $80,000 a year by the companies that were hitting them. So you got to remember, all these companies pay too on the structure.
Right.
So they were making money, and now they got greedy, and then all of a sudden they want you to pay on top of the free stuff that they're already using your bond by.
Well,
so when you type your Social Security number up, there goes your bond, and it goes over to, what is that thing called again, dear Joe?
GMEI. Yeah.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just had to jump in like that.
No. Well, right now I believe we're running through a corptocracy. I really do. I believe we're running through a corptocracy, and it's just really it's sad. But that's the idea. Is if we're going to be the natives we are, or as I call spiritual souls of the soil, we've got to come together and we've got to put our differences aside. We need to be able to agree to disagree. If need be, like a boxer, go to your corner, take a rest, come back out. We don't need to be swinging. My thought process is I'm more back from the old 80s days when it came to the disco. You dance for a little bit and then you go down and rest. And dancing, ain't nobody really fighting when you're dancing. And that's my concept, my thought process is that we all got to dance together a little bit and be in the same area. And we're trying to figure things out, and we need all the help we can get. We've got to help each other. That's the only way we're going to get the structure straightened out.
I agree with you. We've had several. For 5 years I've been building assemblies and stuff here, and I've got some of these coordinators that they get into power. I've got one assembly, the state assembly. They've kicked out 12 people over the stupidest reasons in the world, and I don't know what to do. They've kicked them out because one of them they were just looking into a native thing, into a tribe thing, which they were just looking at it, but they kicked them all out. And you know what? All 12 of those people are probably the best people they had. I don't know why they do that. I mean, I said, I don't understand why you people aren't bringing these people in. It's almost like they're deliberately just trying to destroy it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should get a hold of those 12 people and bring them on over. Well,
one of them is supposed to be on here tonight besides me, but yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We'll just start another assembly our own and move away from them if they're going to act like that, because it's not necessary. We're never going to get ahead by doing it. I mean, the job pays so well anyway.
That's the other point, yeah.
Well, you see, that's where I've got to get back into the Patrick Devine stuff. Radiant Clone is posting that on YouTube, and there's a lot of good information in there. He also posts other stuff. One of the ones I watched, it was like 3 hours and 35 minutes long, and it was one guy from North Carolina helping another guy in another state, figure out how to do his paperwork for the GSA bond. And, he's actually been with USFL, and they've been successful in the courtrooms and before even getting into a courtroom. And that's really the object here is you do not want to get in. The minute you walk into the courtroom, you're theirs.
You come into a British structure, a military court.
Yep. And that's the other one. There's people that are fighting now. One that I did watch, which was very interesting, and unfortunately it seems that this one keeps coming down. And that was where one of the guys actually questioned the, state agent officer. They call them Leos, which I guess that's supposed to give you some kind of idea. They're like lions or something, law enforcement officers. They're law enforcement agents, Leos. And one of the ones he did was he questioned the guy. He said straight up, how many hours a week do you study law? When's the last time you actually read the Constitution? And the guy was dumbfounded. He got him on a stand, and he cross-examined the crap out of him. And, here a guy, I think he had been on the force for like 15 years. And he said, so just out of curiosity, how many hours a week do you study law? And the guy couldn't answer him. And, of course, the Commonwealth attorney decided she wanted to turn on the guy and ask him. He says, I study at least 10 to 40 hours a week on your crap. And he literally said it like that in the courtroom. He said, I can't even believe I'm in here, but it's because of, and he tried to bring out the HJR 192.
Right.
And when that came about, boy, he was right on out the door. Case dismissed, and he was like, no, I need it discharged. And, that's the whole
Yeah,
point.
because they don't want to sign a discharge because that's a check to you.
Yep.
Then you have to take that to the comp controller to get paid, and they don't want to do that because that goes against their retirement. That's under, what do they call that? Section 8 of the Commercial Code of Washington, D.C.
Well, what about our retirement?
Well, I know that. I mean,
I'm messing with you.
I'm not too worried about that. Hey, fellas, I appreciate what you're doing, but I'm going to have to go now. I've got to go to a birthday party with my granddaughter, and she'll never forgive me if I don't. So.
No problem. We appreciate your time. You have a good travel and enjoy the rest of your evening.
I want to hear a lot more from you guys because, there's a lot of good people out there doing good things, but I don't understand this egotism thing that everybody's doing that only certain ways can be. I've been threatened with jail by Anna because I'm not doing it her way, and I'm not going to go for it.
Anna's trying to play that shit with me. She emails me all the time, and it's like,
you got a pen and paper?
And then she went and did this the letter to the Pope shit. And I'm like, I emailed back to her. I said, Lan, I'm the one who filed on the Pope and the Vatican Soul in 2013.
Okay, hold on. You got a pen and paper there out there in Utah?
Well, I'm walking down the road, so no, I don't right now. But maybe I can get it next week.
Okay. If not, chiefwilliej@gmail.com.
Oh, okay. I can remember that.
Send me an email, and I'll get you hooked up with Ed, and we'll get some other people hooked up, and we'll try to get this together.
I think you have my email, don't you?
I got your email, Ed's email.
Yeah, so email me twice, and then I'll send it over to the chief.
Okay, Sounds good.
And then we'll get you back on the other information, too.
And enjoy your birthday party, and thank you for your input and your...
Okay.
Sir. Whoops. I used the title of nobility. Forgive me.
So, anybody else would like to speak up at this point or bring something in tonight? Okay, well, with that one, but that's the one thing, it's not picking on Ann, it's not picking on, Miss Hall, all these people. It's like, we know the game, so quit bullshitting us. Tell the truth. I mean, Judge Ann, it's like when I called up the Alaska board and I said, hey, I want to know about Judge Ann. They said, who, what? And they started laughing. So, remember, Alaska is now part of the United States. It's still no man's land. Technically, it's not even part of Alaska. It's technically no man's land. So, anyhow, it's just read the real structure. Don't get caught up in all these people's gimmicks that they're doing for their own personal financial gain. So, with that, seeing that we're going to do that, why don't we just go ahead and call it an evening tonight? And so, would you like to add anything before we close tonight, Chief?
No, I'm good, man. I'm just happy that, like I said, I'm hoping other people get the number and put the code in and join in with us. And, welcome to the new members.
Also, too, bring that up again. What was the website again?
Which one? Mine?
No, I'm talking about utility.
Oh, GMEI. GMEI. So G-me-I. And it's utility behind it, and you can go right there, and like I said, hit the drop bar, the magnifying glass, if you have one above the UI on utility, and you can type your, Social Security number in there, and if you don't want to use yours, you could do like I did. I used my dead mother's situation. For 9 years, God rest her soul. So, and that's the sad part is they're still trading us even after we die. I can prove that because I know of 4 others on top of my mother that have passed, my father, and some other friends, some other family members. And seriously, between all of them, there's probably 2,000 people trading them, and they go across the entire world. You're going to find out that you're being tapped in Hong Kong, Japan, Australia, England, America.
That's why they're building all these new buildings, and then they say we're homeless.
Yeah. Well, don't get me started on that.
Well, I mean, it's like, it really gets to me because, I deal with this. I go up through, Portland and Seattle and different areas that I've traveled, and I look at all these new developments, and they say, but then again, we have homeless. Well, it's interesting. Go ahead.
Well, and then the interesting one is, if you click on the numbers to the left, it'll actually give you the address of the individual who is tapped in onto that bond or your Social Security number. It will actually give you the physical address and the physical name of that entity. So, and you can do a little research, bounce around it. If you also hit that situation and you're looking from the numbers point, press the top button and it'll come down and it'll say direct parent, and then I think alternate parent. It's got 2 different versions of parents, and then it's also got some other information on there. So basically, also if you look LEI up on Wikipedia, it'll actually, after you read a few paragraphs, just everybody read that. It'll say the who's of who, and then it'll say who owns whom.
Yeah,
so
that's a good one. Who owns whom?
Yep, and that's the idea, is they think that they own us. So we've got to get ourselves out of that situation. But anyhow, good night to everybody, and I hope everybody, got some education, and maybe hopefully they'll join us next week and pipe up and maybe do some research and help us out.
Mm-hmm. That's the whole point, and we appreciate you all joining us. That's the whole point of working with each other. Because now we're seeing the numbers are coming up. We got more and more people joining us. We got more and more people that are paying attention to what's going on. They are starting to see the numbers of what's really going on. And so long as we're putting this stuff together, folks, we do have a future. They wrote it. We quote it. I do get frustrated when people say, you can't use their laws. You can't do this. You can't do that. Well, I don't believe in the word can't. Because I can use their laws. I can do that because their laws are to protect me from them. The mayor, the city council, they don't have rights. They have privileges. They have privileges of servitude, of employment. People say, well, the mayor is a voluntary position. Bullshit. He gets the free water. He gets tax credits. He gets a whole bunch of stuff at the taxpayer's expense. He's paid. Maybe not get a direct salary like some other big city mayors get. But they get paid one way or the other, folks. So don't be confused about the misinformation that these corporations are out there telling you. So with that, we'd like to thank you all for joining us. We appreciate Chief joining us, and we appreciate the structure from the host that runs this stuff and puts the stuff up. And with that, may the Creator look over you. May Mother Earth bring some food to you. And may, the great-grandfather, the Father, give you life with Mother. Without that, we don't have life. With that, you have a good evening.
All right. Well, thank you, Ed. It is currently Saturday, 16th of May, and it's 2020 of the year. So, here's a couple quick questions. One, you don't believe in the word can't. Well, I believe in cantina. I believe in the Cantonese language. So there's a lot of can'ts out there that are valid. Also,
I was not directly expecting that from you, but thank you for the bitch slap.
Well, here's another one. Now, you keep saying that it's the daughter of Hitler that is in charge of...
the Chancellor of Germany, yeah.
Really? So she has to be close to 100 years old now.
No.
And she's got to be in her 80s. Even if she was born at the time of World War II, That was back in the 40s.
That's
60 plus 80, 60 plus 20. That's going to be in the 80s.
She's 62.
How is that possible if Hitler died during the 40s?
He didn't die.
Huh?
He didn't die until 1976.
Well, what was the blow-up thing with the Hitler thing?
That was in the movies. That was just a thing that attached to late. But he went to Australia and then went to Argentina, and he died in 1976. That's all in the history book.
Oh, so he never got to go meet Elvis then, huh? Okay.
Well, I never knew that he went to meet Elvis except for when it was on TV. And what was that, Hogan Heroes, and what was the other one?
All right. Well, I'd love to see the actual proof documentation that he was not dead at that time. But
it's on the internet. I put that up a couple years back.
Just because it's on the internet, we know it's fact, right?
I've done the research on that myself.
Oh, okay. See, this is what the producer does to the talk show host. He gets them on stuff.
He torments the hell out of them.
Yeah, because the talk show host torments the hell out of the producer.
Oh, come on.
But I do want to thank the California Cowboy for writing in on the Swamp Spider on this episode today. And yes, Chief Willie, you still around, or did you run off? He ran off, darn it. Okay. Chief Willie J, he let it be known on one of our talk shows that he was known as the Swamp Spider. So I've got his name as that. And Ed tries to claim he's the Californian Cowboy, which from San Francisco, chaps, and that's it. Maybe a cowboy hat. But with that, guys, honestly, everything we say here, do your own research. Find the own proof of yourself. If they give you a website, go look it up. Find out the information. If you don't want to believe it, then go listen to one of the you know what? Go ahead and listen to the emperor of the big country that has a import that's coming over to us and made us all go into hiding for these months. And if you don't get that, well, you're too stupid to comprehend this. But in the end, guys, you want socialism? GTFO. You want freedom, an actual freedom, then keep listening here and we'll give you information that you can use under your own liability. We do not take responsibility for any action or
of your action,
any action or product of your action that you took from the information we give, because we give the information freely and it's for educational purposes only. Now, here's another thing. And of course Ed says that, and that makes me forget what I was going to say.
Sorry, I just couldn't help it. It just came out.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, guys. Each one of us is a living man or woman. They have put us, for the past at least 3 generations, under indentured servitude. That's also known as slavery, which slavery was banned by their own corporate laws or corporate codes with the 14th Amendment. That was not lawfully ratified, it was administratively ratified.
Mm-hmm.
We do not have a lawful government in any sense of the term anymore. Ed here and Chief Willie and those who listen here and actually are doing the work in the background are actually trying to get a lawful government started again, going off of the actual laws, using their corporate rules, regulations, statutes, and codes against them to separate the lawful from the legal. Now, how is Ed trying to get a lawful government started? Everybody says there's 3 branches of government. There aren't. There are 4. And we, the living men and women of this soil, are the original branch of government. Because without us, there is no other branch. Think on that, guys.
Mm-hmm.
With that, good night, and we'll see you next Saturday, unless Ed decides he's going to take a break